When in your life have you been the most unhappy? I'll tell you when in my life I've been the most unhappy. I was the most unhappy in my life for, thankfully, a brief period of time. I was 18 years old. I had made the decision to drop out of college, and I did a little backpacking trip around Europe for about 2 months. I went to England and Wales and France and Germany and Hungary, and I spent about 2 months backpacking around, and I enjoyed myself on the backpacking trip. But when I got home, I felt like I had nothing. Well, I did. I had nothing going on. I had no job. I had no school. A lot of my friends were busy with other things, and I felt very unhappy day to day. And as a result of that, I kind of farted around. I remember watching a lot of TV, I think ultimately trying to distract myself from the significant discomfort I was feeling. Thankfully, that period of my life only lasted a couple of weeks before I got a job, but I felt pretty unhappy in that short period of time. And, that period of time sort of stands out to me because when I was younger, I thought that a lack of responsibilities would make me happy. A free life, free to do what I want, when I want, how I want, no obligations, no boss, no schedule. I thought that would make me happy. And when I got to experience it for a brief period of time, I felt very unhappy. And I think that's fascinating. Well, thanks for tuning into the channel. My name's Ryan Weiss. This is a video series I'm doing called Lessons for My Kids, where I'm trying to teach my kids all the lessons that they need to learn by the time they become adults. And today's episode is on happiness. And I told you about the period of time in my life where I was the most unhappy. At the end of the video, stick around. I'm also going to tell you about the period of my life in which I was the most happy. And happiness is a huge subject, so this video is quite an undertaking. I'm certainly going to leave things out and wish that I said more, or wish that I said less about certain things, or whatever. I'm just doing my best here. And with that being said, today I'm going to talk about some of the things that I think are keys to being happy. And one of the things that I'll start with is, in life, I think it's important to be a student, right? I think it's important to be a lifelong learner. And I think one of the things that you should study in your life is happiness. I think that is an excellent thing to study. And part of your study should include finding happy people, asking them why they're happy, reading books about happiness, reading stories about happiness, and learning from people that are unhappy, and learning why they're unhappy, and learning why they, might not be able to find and solve the happiness problem in their life. I think all of those are important. So I would start with a sort of a mindset of approaching this as a student. And some of the things that I've learned as a student of happiness, I'll share with you now. So the definition of happiness that I'm going to use here is happiness equals meaning plus gratitude. Meaning plus gratitude. Those are two of what I would say are sort of the most important components that I've been able to find on happiness. So happiness is not necessarily a mood. It's not something that sort of, flutters by. It's what happens when you're doing things that matter, which is the meaning. And it's what happens when you recognize what you already have, and that's the gratitude. Now, there are other angles to happiness that I'm not going to cover in this episode, a bunch of other topics that I think are really important. Some of those include relationships. I think your relationships drive your happiness substantially. Belonging, the hedonic treadmill, I think is a very important topic. I'll cover those in other episodes, and I'll probably dedicate a whole episode itself to gratitude. But today I want to talk about meaning plus gratitude. So the first pillar, I would say, of happiness are purpose and responsibility. So like I said earlier, the period of my life where I ended up being the most unhappy was when I lacked the most responsibility. This has been sort of one of the biggest surprises to me of my adult life. The more responsibility I have taken on, the happier I have gotten. I have a lot of weighty responsibilities as an adult man now. I have a wife and 2 young children that depend on me financially. That is a weighty responsibility. I feel that on my back. And when I was younger, I would have thought that this responsibility would have generated resentment within me, like, kind of like how maybe I felt when I had to do my math homework, right? I'd be like, I have to do this, I don't want to do this, kind of resisting this, like, this is so annoying, I wish I could just do whatever I wanted to. But the truth is that the responsibilities that I've chosen to accept and I have chosen to not resist now give me substantial meaning. I also run a large business. This business is a substantial responsibility. I have customers that are depending on me. I have employees that are depending on me. I have business partners that are depending upon me, vendors that are depending upon me. It's a big responsibility. And one of the fulfilling things about running a business and having a family is that it has caused me to grow personally. I've had to improve my skills, my attitude, my mindset, because if I don't, then the things that I care about will start to suffer. My business will suffer, my family will suffer. And so the forced growth through the acceptance of significant responsibilities has resulted in my life having substantial meaning. I matter now. And I matter because I've said yes to responsibilities, and now people are depending on me to do the things that I said I was going to do. And that sort of leads to what I would call the second pillar of happiness, which is keeping your promises. Keeping your promises, I think, plays a key role in happiness because it leads to 2 different things. The first is self-trust, and the second is self-confidence. So people who don't keep their promises, if they're honest with themselves, develop, this feeling of not being able to depend on themselves, right? Because if you don't keep your promises to other people, you're likely to not keep your promises to yourself. And if you don't keep your promises to yourself, then how can you make any progress in life? If you say, I want to do this thing to yourself, like, Ryan, I really want you to lose weight or gain weight, or I want you to grow your business, or, be there more for your family, or whatever other virtues in life you want to pursue. If you don't keep your promises, you won't trust yourself to take action towards getting the kinds of things that you want to have in life. So keeping your promises is extremely important because it will build self-confidence and self-trust. And in my experience, some of the most unhappy people I've met are really bad at keeping their promises. And they feel a lot of guilt and shame around the promises that they haven't kept to other people and to the promises that they haven't kept to themselves. And so if you want to be happy in life, keep your promises, both to yourself and to other people. And then finally, I want to talk about gratitude as a lens shift. Gratitude, I would say, is sort of the third most important pillar to happiness, right? And what is gratitude? Gratitude is recognizing the abundance that currently exists for you. And if you're alive, you're breathing, and you're sentient, you have things that you can be grateful for. It's often amazing if you read history what life was like 200, 300, 500 years ago. Not that long ago in the span of human history, but radically different in terms of lifestyle and quality of life now compared to back then, right? We're all living like kings and queens from 400 years ago. I mean, we have modern dental work, we have modern healthcare, we have modern food, we have modern housing, heated houses, everyone has a shower, everyone has a toilet. I mean, it's miraculous, the abundance that we have and the abundance that we take for granted. And gratitude helps us to realize how great our lives actually already are. And it's easy to get into this ungrateful mindset, especially if you're ambitious, right? To focus on the lack, to focus on the things that you want and don't have. And so gratitude is a key component because a lot of people get trapped in this cycle of always wanting and always not having. And they want, a nice house, and then they want a nicer house, and then they want an even nicer house, and you can just get sort of trapped. This would be the hedonic treadmill. You can get trapped on this path of always wanting more and more and more. And I mean, there's a lot of parables about greed, right? But if you want to be happy, if you want to live a happy life, you have to learn to recognize what you already have that's amazing, and feel an intense sense of gratitude. And when you're approaching life from gratefulness, you will feel much happier. You will feel much happier. So the three pillars that I just talked about were purpose and responsibility. Seek out the heaviest burden you can find and accept it gratefully. Number 2, developing self-trust and self-confidence through keeping your word. And number 3, approaching life with a lens of gratitude. And if you think about these 3 things and how they apply to your life, I think that you will increase your personal happiness. And now, I told you I would tell you about when in my life I have felt the most happy. And the truth is, it's been the past couple of months and past couple of years, particularly since I became a father, that I have felt the most happy in my life. And it's funny because I have the most, if you described my life now to me when I was 18, you have a big business that you're running, and you have a wife and kids that depend on you, and you have like a jam-packed schedule and a list of responsibilities, and you have to come home from work, and you have to clean, and you have to read the kids' books before they go to bed, and you have to emotionally support your wife, and all these different things. I would have framed them to myself when I was younger as like, oh my gosh, that sounds like so much work, But now that I'm doing the work and I'm embracing it and I'm committing to it, I have really never felt happier. I mean, I feel so glad for what life is asking of me, and for the people that are depending on me, and for the opportunities that I have to show up and let my greatness shine. I feel incredibly grateful for the responsibilities that I have been given, and I hope that I can earn more responsibilities and take on a greater and greater role in other people's lives. And so, and I keep my word, and I try to practice gratitude daily. And I'm feeling the most happy I've ever been, and it's surprising to me, because if you describe my life to younger me, I would have thought that I would have been exhausted or maybe burnt out or looking forward to retirement, and I'm not. I'm rocking it. So, hope that was helpful. Maybe an introduction to happiness. There's a lot of different ways you can go and a lot of different things to think about happiness, but these are some of the thoughts that I have, and I hope that these were helpful to you. So thank you very much for watching, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.